270 people buried alive in 4 minutes. That's how long it took for Dam 1 to collapse at the Carrego do Feijão mine in Brumadinho, Brazil on January 25, 2019. Workers were eating lunch in the cafeteria at 12:28 p.m. By 12:32 p.m., they were gone. Buried under 12 million cubic meters of toxic mining waste moving at 80 kilometers per hour. The mud wave was 20 meters tall. It destroyed everything for 10 kilometers downstream. The cafeteria building was crushed flat in seconds. 133 people inside never had a chance to run. But here's what nobody knew in those first minutes. This wasn't an accident. This was mass murder disguised as corporate negligence. Engineers had warned Vale Corporation for 3 years that Dam 1 was failing. Every single warning was ignored. The dam held iron ore tailings, toxic sludge left over from mining operations, heavy metals, chemical residue, industrial poison. And Vale knew the structure was unstable since 2016. They kept workers there anyway. What happened in the next 72 hours would expose one of the largest corporate cover-ups in Brazilian history. Vale SA is the largest iron ore producer on Earth, worth $63 billion in 2019. Operating in 30 countries. Employing 125,000 people worldwide. The Carrego do Feijão mine was tiny by their standards. Just 427 workers. But it sat on top of a ticking bomb. Dam 1 was built in 1976 using the upstream method. The cheapest and most dangerous dam construction technique ever invented. You stack mining waste on top of more mining waste. Year after year. Building upward. The structure gets heavier and more unstable with every layer. By 2019, Dam 1 held 11.7 million cubic meters of tailings. In September 2017, Vale's own engineers issued a stability warning. The dam showed signs of liquefaction risk. The foundation was compromising. In February 2018, another report. Critical structural concerns identified. Recommended immediate action. In September 2018, a third report. Emergency level risk declared. The dam could fail at any moment. Vale's response? They hired a German consulting firm, TVSD, to inspect the dam. On January 22, 2019, just 3 days before the collapse, TVSD issued a stability certificate. They declared Dam 1 safe. But here's what they didn't tell anyone. The inspection was incomplete. Critical areas were never examined. The certificate was based on outdated data. And Vale executives knew it. Internal emails later revealed that engineers inside Vale had been sounding alarms for months. One email from November 2018 stated clearly, the dam presents imminent rupture risk. Evacuation protocols must be established immediately. The email was marked as read by 14 senior managers. Not one person acted. The cafeteria remained open. Workers kept reporting for shifts. Warning sirens that could have saved lives were never installed. What Vale did next was even more disturbing. At exactly 12:28 p.m. on Friday, January 25, the dam broke. Workers in the mine's administrative area heard a sound like thunder. Then the ground started shaking. Security camera footage captured what happened next. The dam's crest suddenly dropped 2 meters. The entire structure began sliding downhill. Liquefaction had turned the solid tailings into fluid sludge in seconds. The weight of 12 million cubic meters transformed into kinetic energy. A wall of mud 20 meters high accelerated down the valley at 80 kilometers per hour. The wave hit the administrative complex first. Buildings were ripped from their foundations. The cafeteria, where 133 employees were having lunch, was obliterated in 8 seconds. Survivor Adriano Santos was walking to his car 200 meters away. He heard screaming. Turned around. Saw the mud wall approaching. He ran uphill and barely made it. He watched his co-workers disappear. Another survivor, Tiago Silva, was in a bathroom in a building on higher ground. The structure shook violently but held. When he came out, everything below was gone. Buried under meters of toxic sludge. The mud continued downstream for 10 kilometers. It hit the mining company's train line. Derailed 3 locomotives. Buried them completely. It destroyed the community of Carrego do Feijão village. 12 houses swept away. Families killed in their homes. The Paraopeba River, which supplied water to 2 million people, was poisoned with heavy metals. But here's the most chilling part. Vale's emergency response plan was a joke. The sirens that should have warned workers? Never installed. The evacuation routes that should have been marked? Didn't exist. The emergency training that workers should have received? Never happened. When the dam collapsed, nobody knew what to do. Nobody knew where to run. And Vale's crisis team took 43 minutes to even confirm the collapse had occurred. By then, 270 people were already buried. Some of them were still alive under the mud. What rescuers found in the next 48 hours would haunt them forever. The first rescue teams arrived 37 minutes after the collapse. Firefighters from Belo Horizonte, 65 kilometers away. What they found was apocalyptic. An ocean of red-brown sludge covering everything. The mud was toxic. Filled with iron ore residue, heavy metals, and chemical waste. Rescue workers needed full hazmat protection. But there wasn't time for that. People were buried alive. Helicopters brought in trained dogs. The animals couldn't work. The toxic fumes made them sick within minutes. Rescuers started digging by hand. The mud was thick as concrete. Temperatures reached 35 degrees Celsius. Workers collapsed from heat exhaustion. In the first 72 hours, they recovered 58 bodies. But 212 people were still missing. Buried under meters of industrial waste. Some bodies were found 8 kilometers from the collapse site. Carried by the mud wave and deposited in the river. The recovery operation continued for 10 months. The final death toll, 270 people confirmed dead. 11 bodies never found. But while rescuers searched, prosecutors started digging too. Into Vale's records. Into TVSD's inspection reports. Into internal emails and engineering assessments. What they found was damning. A paper trail of negligence stretching back 3 years. In March 2019, Brazilian prosecutors charged 16 people. 11 Vale employees. 5 TVSD engineers. The charges: qualified homicide, environmental crimes, falsification of documents. The evidence was overwhelming. Internal Vale emails showed executives discussing the dam's instability in casual terms. One manager wrote in December 2018, "Let's hope it holds until we can decommission it next year." They knew. They gambled with workers' lives. They lost. But here's the most shocking discovery. Brumadinho wasn't even Vale's first deadly dam collapse. 3 years earlier, in November 2015, another Vale dam failed in Mariana, Brazil. The Fundeo tailings dam burst. Killed 19 people. Destroyed an entire town. Released 43 million cubic meters of toxic waste. It was Brazil's worst environmental disaster at the time. Vale paid 6.8 billion reais in settlements. Promised to improve safety standards across all operations. Swore it would never happen again. Then Brumadinho happened. 270 more people dead. The investigations revealed Vale had 88 upstream dams still operating in 2019. At least 10 of them showed similar instability issues. The company knew. They chose profits over safety. Again and again and again. 5 years later, not one person has gone to prison. The criminal trials are still ongoing in 2024. Delayed by appeals, procedural challenges, and Brazil's notoriously slow justice system. The 16 defendants remain free. Vale paid 37.7 billion reais in compensation and fines. The largest settlement in Brazilian history. But money doesn't bring back 270 people. Money doesn't clean 400 kilometers of poisoned river. The Paraopeba River remains contaminated with heavy metals. Fish populations collapsed. Communities lost their water supply. Thousands of people were displaced permanently. Vale decommissioned all 88 upstream dams by 2023. But it took 270 deaths to force that change. The company's stock price recovered within 18 months. Executives kept their bonuses. TVSD still operates in Brazil. Still issues safety certificates. The German government launched an investigation but brought no charges. The families of the victims formed an association. They meet every January 25th at the memorial site. 270 names carved in stone. Most of the bodies were never properly recovered. The toxic mud made identification impossible for many victims. Some families buried empty coffins. Others scattered ashes that might not even be their loved ones. This is what corporate negligence looks like when taken to its logical extreme. Engineers screaming warnings for years. Management ignoring every alarm. Profit margins prioritized over human life. And when the inevitable disaster strikes, justice moves so slowly that accountability becomes meaningless. The case files remain open, gathering dust in Brazilian courts, while the executives responsible walk free and the rivers run red with poison. So what other dams around the world are failing right now while someone marks a safety report as red and does nothing? Subscribe for a new dark truth every day.